Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How's everybody doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today we are doing the next video in my palette roulette series in which I review a palette or two that is in my collection that might also be in your collection. I tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, all the things that I experienced while using the palette or palettes. Show you some pictures of the eye looks I was able to create and some swatches of the palettes, and then we pull another palette. We do it all over again. So today we're going to be reviewing two DANESSA MYRICKS palettes. We have the Groundwork palette in Defining Neutrals, and we have the Lightwork Volume 6 Freedom palette, which I'm super excited to walk through and show you guys all of the things. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, please keep on watching. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. I'm a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care. Ultimately, this is my self-care. I like coming out here talking to you guys about all the things coming into my collection, leaving my collection. I do reviews, project panning, tutorials, just general makeup chit-chat. I love talking about makeup, and you people are the people that I choose to talk about makeup with. So I hope that you're here for it. I hope that you want to subscribe before you go. And even if you don't, please don't forget to hit me up down in the comment section. I love having conversations down there. You guys know I love talking to y'all, so please don't forget to do that. And with that said, let's roll into this review in which I am reviewing two DANESSA MYRICKS palettes on the absolute opposite spectrums of the makeup platform. So as I said, we do have two DANESSA MYRICKS palettes to go over. I'm going to do this one first because I think it's probably the most boring of the two, and it'll be easier to get through. So this is the DANESSA MYRICKS Groundwork Defining Neutrals palette. This is a $65 eyeshadow palette, and it does have 20 shadows in it, but it is 10 shadows that are pomades and 10 shadows that are powders. And all of those shades are a pomade and a powder of the same shade, if that makes any sense. I know that you guys who are around the makeup space all the time know exactly what I'm talking about, and it'll make more sense if it doesn't to you if you're just a general consumer watching. But this is what the palette looks like. It is a beautiful like cardboard packaging, but it's got like this really pretty faux like leather appearance to it that's kind of like this coppery shade. This is metal, and it is just the title bar that tells you that this is a DANESSA MYRICKS beauty palette. It is a Groundwork Defining Neutrals palette, and then it has some little tiny print down here that I can't honestly read to you because I'm not wearing my glasses. It does have some information on the back of the palette as well, giving you some insights into the different formulas, the different colors, the differences in the palette and what you can use it for. It also has the shelf life on here, which says it is 12 months, and that's where that's at. So when you open it up, there is a mirror on the inside. It does fold all the way back in on itself, and this is what the palette looks like. And as you can see, each shadow pocket is the same shade, but two different pans. One is pomade and one is powder. The smaller of the two is the powder. However, the pomade weighs in at 0.006 ounces per pan, and the powders weigh in at 0.03 ounces per pan. So, I mean, pomade is going to weigh obviously less than powder does. So, and truth be told, there is a reason why the pomades are the bigger of the two. I have found in all of my usage of this that it is really a lot easier to work with the pomade because they are in the larger pans. But that being said, I also am not a fan of the powders being in such a small pan size. I wish it was just slightly more half and half. I think that you could get just as much use with a larger brush out of the pomade if that pan was just slightly smaller and the powder pan was slightly bigger. I mean, it's neither here nor there. I don't care either way, but you can see that each one of those shades, both the pomade and the powder, are the same shade. They're just, one's a pomade, one's a powder. This is gluten-free, cruelty-free, and it is fragranced, but has less than a 1% synthetic fragrance. To be honest, I do not smell a fragrance at all to it, and I do not even smell the chemical fragrance to it that a lot of people were complaining about in the reviews that I was looking over. There's so many 1-star reviews on this palette for a myriad of reasons. Some of them I'll talk about in just a second, but I don't feel like it's fair to this palette. This is a full face palette. It is safe for eyes, face, brows, lips. It's an all over multi-use palette, which I think is fantastic. I love that there is multiple different shades of brown in here. There's even a black. There's even kind of a slightly corally orange shade, a terracotta brown, if you will, even kind of like that like creamy beige color. And it really does lend to all over face use because there are so many different undertones of brown in this palette. I could see you using it for contour. Like I did use this shade a little bit for contour. I used this shade a little bit in my brows. I didn't like it so much. It did look a little bit too red in my humble opinion. So then I moved to like a combination of the black and the dark brown in here in my brows. I am not a big pomade wearer in my brows, but I could see how a lot of people would love using these products in their brows. I could also see how this could be like a really beautiful coral colored cream blush, like almost neutral cream blush. These pomades are a little bit more on the drier side than you would find a normal everyday like brow pomade to be. So I do feel like that makes them easier to work with in the brows because it doesn't get goopy. This is an all matte, obviously long wearing and oil absorbing palette because the powders in here contain upsolite, which is that ingredient that DANESSA MYRICKS uses in almost everything, and it is the ingredient that helps control oil as well as smooth texture. I have her like yummy skin like blushes that I do feel like blurs the texture on my cheeks because it has that upsolite in it. I would say that the best performance in this is when you're using the pomades in addition to the powders. The pomades do well on their own. The powders, of course, do well on their own, but in tandem, they work so much better. I don't think they work so much better than the powders on their own, but you can definitely tell the difference between the pomades without the powder over the top of them and the pomades with the powder over the top of them. The pomades do not last long on their own. They have a wear time of approximately 6 hours before they dramatically start fading off of your eyelids. I blow my eyeshadows out pretty far, and I remember one day I started with an eyeshadow look that was pretty blown out like this with my pomades, and then at the end of the day it was kind of barely covering my eyelid. So I was like, wow, you can definitely tell the wear time difference when these have the powders over the top of them and when they do not. So yeah, probably a 6-hour wear time prior to any kind of fading when they're used on their own. But when they are used in conjunction with the powders, 10 hours later, I was taking my makeup off and it looked like I had just put it on my face. So easily 10 hours, if not longer, when you are using them in tandem with each other. The pomades definitely work best with your fingers. Like I said, they are really dry. So if you go into them with even like a powder brush like this, you're not going to get a whole lot on your brush that's going to translate onto your skin. So it definitely works better with your fingers and then go in with the brush to buff it out if you're going to use it in that way. And then, of course, using the powders to go over the top of it and buff it out even more. They do work well with detailed brushes if you get in with like a little tiny like detail brush like what you're using for your eyeliners or what you're using for your brows. It will definitely pick up what it needs to with these detailed brushes because you can go in a little bit more ham and get what you need out of it. So it's going to have good pigmentation. This wasn't the best. This isn't a brush that I use for like any kind of detail work, but you definitely can get a better impact and a better pigmentation from the detail brushes and or your fingers. I do not like using the pomades in a blend. I don't think that they blend well with each other. I think that they turn out very muddy when you're trying to blend them into each other. And I think that a lot of that is because there's not really any detail orientation with your fingers, right? So you're just putting it on and then you're putting more on to blend the two different colors together, and it doesn't work well. So in my humble opinion anyways, I didn't have any fun doing that. So if you are going to try and blend one or, you know, two or three of these pomades together, figure out how to do one pomade and then blend colors in the powders together instead of utilizing the pomades for the blend, because it just doesn't work in that way. They just become really muddy. These, like I said, are more dry than most other pomades that you come across. Like, I think of these pomades and then like even these KBD pomades that I've had in my collection for 100 years. Now, if I was to rub my finger into this pomade, I would get quite a bit of color off, right? And you guys saw I just barely was rubbing my finger across there. But if I rub my finger across this one, I'm getting not a lot of color. It's just a little bit more dry. It feels a little bit more like a powder. And I appreciate that about that. But it also lends to you really having to honestly dig into the pomade in order to get maybe the pigmentation that you want. But they move so much in the pan that it's almost scary to dig harder in there, because you could like destroy the pan. But even as hard as I went into that, there's not a whole lot of color that's on my finger. You guys can see it just doesn't translate as much as I think a regular old pomade that I'm used to does. I think that that's great, but I also think that it might cause some problems with some people, and I did see that in some of the comments that were made in the reviews. Because they move so much in the pans, it's really hard to keep this palette looking pretty, if you must keep a palette looking pretty. I don't mind the palettes looking not pretty, but in addition to that, I don't know if you guys can see that, but when you do dig into the palette, the pomades are so dry that they kind of crack. So you have to dig in so much to get the kind of pigmentation that you want when you're using your fingers, but brushes don't work either. I feel like the pomades are better for the detail brushes, and really the detail brushes only. And that's defeating the purpose of this palette. In addition to that, because these are so dry, you guys just saw me trying to put it onto this brush, trying to put it onto my finger, trying to do all the things. When you go into it looking for, like, I'm not actually going to put this brush in here, but when you go into it and want like a contour shade and say I'm going to use this as a contour, and you just kind of buff your brush across the top to put the contour shade on your face, it doesn't work. It doesn't work with a big fluffy brush, in my humble opinion. And maybe I got a dud, but I don't think that I did, just looking at the reviews on the website. Now, this does have a 4.6 star rating on DANESSA MYRICKS, but it only has 7 reviews on DANESSA MYRICKS. On Sephora, it has 947 reviews with a 4.5 star rating. And on Beauty Bay, it has a 4.7 star rating with 66 reviews. I would say I would probably put it in a 4.5 star rating. There were so many 1-star reviews, and a lot of the reason why those 1-star reviews existed was because when I first got this palette, and when these people first got this palette, there was like white crystalline on the shadow pans, and you can kind of see it on the black still, because I went in like at the bottom of the black or at the top of the black. I don't think that you can see it in any of the other shades, but you can kind of still see it on the black. Well, they were calling it fiberglass or fuzzies. It's not fiberglass. They were also stating that they had irritation to their eyes because of the fiberglass that's on the shadows. I mean, as soon as you rub your finger across it, it goes away. If it were fiberglass, it would have cut up my finger. If it were fiberglass, it wouldn't necessarily go away. It would have cut up my finger and or been embedded in that shadow. So mine did have like crystallization on the top of it, but I know enough about, you know, makeup in the beauty industry that if you take like a hairdryer to it or something like that and it melts back in, then it really is just particles from the formulation. Now, I didn't do that. I just rubbed my finger over the top of it and all of that substance came off. So it's nothing that I'm worried about, but I do know that there are hundreds of 1-star reviews on Sephora because of that instance. So I wanted to make note of it here. And before I move too far on, I want to finish off my thoughts on the pomades because I just kind of moved right past it. But with these pomades, I think also because they're super dry, I didn't notice any kind of creasing. They perform very much like some of the like eyeshadow primers I use do. They're really dry. They're really dry but blank out everything underneath it kind of formulation. And I appreciate that about this. I didn't notice any creasing, but because they're so dry, there was a lot of patchiness that occurred because it was hard to blend them. It was hard to get them all over my eye without having to go in 100 times, and then whatever was already on my eye was dried up at that point in time. So the powders in here work great. You guys saw the black on my finger. It is a pretty dang decent black. I would say the same thing for all the shadows in here. One of my favorite looks, honestly, was using this kind of gray color in the crease, just buffed out into the crease. Then I would put this brown or this brown like in the dead crease of my eye, and then put like one of the DANESSA MYRICKS Freedom Multichromes across my eye. There was a video that I did with a really light eye look. I can't remember what video it was now, but I actually really liked that look, but thought I looked weird. But that's what I did with that look. It was this in the crease, it was this brown in the dead crease, and then it was a multi-chrome across my eye. It was super, super easy to use these powders for sure. They seem to have a perfectly fine formula, which is amazing because DANESSA doesn't put out a whole lot of mattes, to be honest. The wear time on them is somewhere around 7.5 hours without a primer. With a primer, easily 10. With the powders and the pomades, it's 10 plus for sure. There is a decent amount of pigment that you're gonna get out of the powders for sure, but I would say they're not like straight up in your face pigment. They are definitely buildable and definitely user friendly, but I'm not sure that the pomades in this are user friendly. The packaging on this is fantastic. They do pop out, which is why there's the, you know, half moon over on the side of every single one of the shade holes, because they are removable pans, which I think is fantastic. You can, you know, hand pick whatever shadows you want to take with you on a trip. Easiest way to do it. I really do think that this is a great palette. Do I think it is something that everybody needs in their collection? Maybe not. I am not wholeheartedly super fond of the pomades, honestly. In this palette, I loved the ones in the Blooming Romance. I don't know what the difference is between the two for me. The formulation is not any different, but the difference between the two for me, like I definitely like the Blooming Romance better. And maybe it's just because, you know, those dusty pinks and purples and reds are right up my alley, whereas neutrals just isn't. But I also felt like I had an easier time using a brush in the Blooming Romance ones than I did in these ones. Would I recommend this palette? I don't think, honestly, like it's a $65 eyeshadow palette. And I don't honestly think that you need to pay $65 for a neutral eyeshadow palette. We do it here in the beauty space because it was really great that it had a pomade and a powder for every single shade. And it was just kind of ingenious and kind of indicative of like things that she was going to be doing in the future, right? And it was revolutionary. I don't think it's necessarily a $65 eyeshadow palette, but whether it's worth it or not is totally up to you, right? I also don't think that you need to spend $65 on a decent neutral eyeshadow palette. I have Too Faced Natural Nudes and I love it as much as this, probably. I love the Patrick Ta monochrome, his what, Major Dimensions 3 one, probably about as much as this one, which is saying something because I didn't love the Patrick Ta. I was mad at myself for purchasing Patrick Ta over this one, but I think that this one is better in some instances, and I think that one is better in some instances. So I think that they're kind of like roughly right along the same line for me in terms of like how much I love them or no. I don't think it's anything special. There's that. Would I recommend it? Sure. I would not, however, recommend it to somebody who was new at the utilization of pomades, because those pomades would do nothing but freak them out or frustrate them. So there's that. This I do think is something special. So this is the Lightwork Volume 6 Freedom palette. This is $128. It has 0.756 ounces of product entirely, or 0.04 ounces of product per pan, and there are 18 shadows in here with 9 different finishes. These are the 18 shadows and the 9 different finishes. I have to be honest with you, the only place to see how these shadows are in the pan is here. It's gonna be kind of disjointed, so bear with me. This palette has 9 different finishes in it. We have 2 shadows in here, which are cream chromes. Those are cream-based chrome pigments that are full coverage cream-based chrome pigments. I think we saw these first in her Experience palette, and they are Nirvana and Rejoice. And this one is the one that I was wearing on my lid in that video that I was just talking about, where it had the kind of gray tone and then the medium brown and then a multi-chrome across my lid. This one is the one that I was wearing across my lid. This one 100% will transform the eye look dependent on what's underneath it. I love that shade. I love all of them. I love all of them so much. But those cream chromes are a little bit more like creamy, but they are full pigment. You're gonna get one swipe payoff, but it's going to be different depending on the color. Again, cream chromes, we have Nirvana. Nirvana is going to be kind of an olive green to teal green blue cream chrome, and I think that you guys are seeing kind of like a little bit of redness to it as well. When I look at it like this, I see that olive green color. When I look at it head on, I kind of see a pinkiness to it. So I'm not sure where the teal is coming from, except for when you guys saw it on my hand, you could definitely see that like green to kind of blue shift to it. And then Rejoice is going to be a rose gold to antique gold cream chrome that definitely shifts really, really nice. It looks very, very pink in the palette, but it also looks very, very peachy on an eye look. So really very cool. And then we have Slick Chromes. We have one of those. That is a Wet Look Multi-Chrome Pigment Powder. And that is the shade Empowered. Empowered is a dark purple royal plum Slick Chrome, and it is this shade right here. And this is probably my least favorite shade in the palette. This one I found did fall out all over the place. I think I put that over the top of the other shade. Hold on. By me doing that, what you just saw is like the pure genius of this palette. You guys saw all the crazy shiftiness coming from that shadow when it was packed on top of another shadow. But I mean, it still is pretty, it's still beautiful, but it's definitely not as impactful as it was packed on top of that other shade. But that's it. It just doesn't enthuse me to use it. I've worn it a few times in a few eye looks because it is the deepest one in this palette, and I didn't like it any of the times I used it just because of the sheer fallout from it. I don't feel like it's as multi-chromatic as the definition of a slick chrome gives you. The next ones are a duochrome crushed sparkler. These are semi-transparent dimensional duochrome toppers, and these were beautiful shadows for any eye look you put them into as a topper or on their own. We have Rise, Fluid, and Euphoria. So Rise is going to be this one here. Rise is a yellow gold to peach duochrome sparkler. Fluid is this one here. Fluid is a bright teal to gold duochrome. And then the other one is Euphoria, and Euphoria is this one here. And Euphoria is an orchid purple to lapis blue duochrome. Beautiful shadow. So those ones are those three. I mean, God, they're just so pretty. They are beautiful, and there is quite a bit of pigment to them. So they do stand on their own, but these truly show in the best light when you do have them topped over something else, just to give it a little bit more oomph or a little bit more shiftiness. So pretty. Again, those were duochrome crushed sparklers. Those are semi-transparent dimensional duochrome toppers. Okay. Then we have super chromes. Super chromes are going to be multi-chrome tricolor shifting pigments, and we have 3 of those. We have Higher, which is this one here. Higher is an electric pink to peach multi-chrome, and it looks like absolute nothing on its own 100% of the time. And then we have Gleaming. Gleaming is right next to it. One that I was showcasing in my how to use eyeshadow sticks video, and it is a beetle green to warm brown to blue, like multi-chrome. It is so pretty. But honestly, if you guys watch that video, you can see it on my bare skin. Looks like nothing unless you're packing it on top of something. And then the other one is Joy, and Joy is this one here. And Joy is a coral to pink to gold multi-chrome. But I think that you can see there's almost a translucent base to each one of them, and they could really look like absolutely nothing in an eye look unless a person is turned just right. And then it's like, bam, in your face. They are so pretty. So pretty. I hope that I'm able to also get pictures with video of these shades that really, really exemplify what these shades can do, because they are just stunning. Again, those are super chromes, and the super chromes are multi-chrome tricolor shifting pigments. They're, I mean, just pure translucent based pure pigment. Next we have Cushion Chrome. Cushion Chrome is a creamy powder super shifter with amplified pigments, and there's only one of those in this palette, and it is Free. And Free is this shade here. And this shade does feel a little bit different than the other ones. Like, I feel like you can like move your finger around in it, and then like you need to press on it. It has a little bit of stickiness to it almost. Oops, I forgot to show you. This is what it looks like on the finger. It just looks like a white or a silver. And this is what it looks like on the skin. It is like a silver white with kind of like a peachy to golden like shiftiness to it. It's just pretty. And how it explains the color, whereas it is a creamy powder super shifter with amplified pigments, I really feel like it sets you up for success with that, to know what it's going to do to your eye looks, because this can wholeheartedly transform an eye look, make it look just so special. Free was a hot pink to gray duochrome super shifter. I feel like you only get the pink from a certain angle. It's mostly peachy to gray to gold look to it. Then there are holochromes. Holochromes are going to be ethereal, ultra dynamic fairy dust multichromes. And there are two of those. We have Proud. Proud is this one here, and it is a warm gold to soft pink halo. It doesn't look like anything. Then we have Serenity, this one here. So those are the two holochromes. Serenity is a neon pink, yellow, green holochrome shifting. That is in my eye look today. It is all up in here, as is the other one, which is kind of on the outskirts of my eye look. And these ones look like this. I mean, they're gorgeous, gorgeous. Then we have Elastin Multichromes Release. Release is this one here. Release is a seafoam lilac halo multichrome. Also in my eye look, like I said, we have this one kind of towards the outer, or kind of in the middle here. We have this one all over the lid space, and then this one is out here towards the outer corner. And it looks completely different on my eye look, but those are those three shades, all holographic to some extent, all semi-transparent, all beautiful, honestly. And then Glass Sheen, there's only one. It is a semi-transparent sparkler, and that is Dance. Dance is a light pink to silver glassy sparkler shade. And that is going to be this one here, which is beautiful, but I found a little bit difficult to use. It just absolutely, truly looks like nothing. I liked using it over the top of other things or as an inner corner. It was pretty in that way. I don't think that it's not my favorite shade in the palette, but I do think that it is probably the most underutilized in my palette for sure. And then we have the soft satin mattes. So there are 4 soft satin mattes in here. These are soft buildable mattes with a shimmer pearl. These are satins. They are not mattes. They are going to show up as a sheeny shade in your eye look. So if you need actual mattes in your eye look, you're gonna need to pull from a different palette. The shades in the mattes are Unapologetic. This one here. And then we have Unbound, which is this one here. Unapologetic is a warm, like suede brown red satin matte. Unbound is your indigo bluish purple satin matte. These perform really well, but they do have a lot of sheeniness to them. Then we have Love and Bliss, which is the one right next to it. And Love and Bliss are in my eye look today that I have buffed out to the brow bone. And I mean, I think that they perform well. I don't love using these as mattes. I think that they perform better as shimmers on an eye look. So those 4 are going to be these guys here. See, the pink has hardly any pigmentation to it. Those ones work better with a brush than any of the other shadows do, for sure. I didn't have a whole lot of problem using a brush with these guys. So those are the shadows, right? Beautiful shadows. And I am going to stick pictures and videos in here for you, but the shadows are so much fun. And it's really about makeup playtime with this palette. That's what I found I enjoyed using this palette the most for, was makeup playtime. Like just sitting and playing with layering different shadows on top of each other to see what I could accomplish with this palette in terms of, you know, an eye look and how beautiful it would be. Some of them do like stain, but none of them bothered my eyes. This is also supposed to be 100% safe for full face application, and it is finger forward. So like it boasts itself as a finger forward palette. Like they want you to play with it with your fingers. It is vegan, cruelty free, fragrance free. I don't smell anything from it. The wear time on these is an easy 10 hours, easy 10-hour wear out of these shadows. I didn't find any problems with them creasing. I didn't find any problems with them voiding or fading away. I do not love using the mattes in here as mattes, and I do think that that one, that pinky matte, really doesn't have a whole lot of pigmentation to it, so it also doesn't perform very well as a impactful shimmer, to be honest. I would say utilization of a primer with these is probably going to do nothing but help you, because it's going to help create the impact that you maybe want from your eyeshadow look, right? The packaging of this is what is probably one of the most spectacular pieces of this palette. So let's start with the palette as it is, right? It is, and for those of you that have seen this before, I apologize, but the packaging has a top cover and then it just comes apart, right? It's magnetized together, comes apart, so you don't have to mess with a floppy lid or bend it back on itself, break the spine or whatever, right? And then you go, yeah, but I want a mirror. That's a problem. Okay, this is a mirror. I haven't taken the film off of it, but this is a mirror, and it just magnetizes in here. So that's a mirror. And you're like, oh, okay. I want it on a palette, so turn it over so that the mirror faces you, and turn the top over, and you can stick it on there, and then you have a bigger mirror, right? You can set it in front of you and you can use it as a vanity mirror. Okay, I loved that about this. These also all come out of here. So this comes out, right? Cool beans. They all come out. Cool beans. They all magnet together, stick to each other, and then the mirror can then become the lid. So this becomes a little tiny mini palette in your collection. In addition to that, this can now be a magnetic palette, because your pans of eyeshadow from the DANESSA Defining Neutrals palette, which are marked on the back, mind you, magnetize in the palette. Okay? Genius. Genius. In addition to all of that craziness, each one of these pans also comes out. Each one of these pans also comes out, and they are marked on the back as well. So, I mean, this is just genius. This, like, the thought of this is just genius. And it was built for makeup artistry, of course. I mean, look at DANESSA MYRICKS. Look at who we're talking about here. But I really just think it's so special. It's such a special, like, palette product in terms of, like, the shadows within it. Such a special palette, period. So the makeup of it and all the things, it's beyond inspiring. And I think that that's what she made it for, right? So that said, again, $128. Would I recommend this palette? It is expensive, but I think that this palette is worth every single bit of that $128 spend that you would spend on it. This is completely a discontinued palette though at this point in time, so if you don't have it, I'm super sorry about it, but you can go on to additional websites and get it, but I'm telling you, do not buy it for double the price on Mercari or Poshmark. So if you have this palette, down in the comments section, let me know. I'd love to know what combinations of colors that you've put together to create the most stunning eye looks that you've come up with. I hope that you've gotten some kind of, like, I don't know, something that you loved out of some of the pictures that you've seen, or the eye look that I'm wearing today. Like, it truly is just about makeup playtime, and that is what makes it worth it to me. Now, I would recommend this one if it was purchasable. Sure. This one, I think, is here or there. I think you could do something else and be just as happy with any other neutral palette, almost any other neutral palette on the marketplace. That one I don't have any like star ratings for you, which is sad, but I would easily give it a 5, 6, 8, 10 star rating out of 5, because it's just phenomenal. It just truly is phenomenal. I love it so dang much. And if you are in the mood for multi-chromes and duochromes, but don't want to send your money off to indie brands, which are the bomb, just saying, those are the best mainstream ways to get it. DANESSA MYRICKS is the best mainstream way to get multi-chromes and duochromes. And with that said, I've kept you here long enough. I'm going to go pull some new palettes and we will let you go. Okay. I think I've done this like 800 times now at this point, but I think I'm going to bring in another Cosmic Brushes and Unearthly palette. This is the last Unearthly palette that's in my drawer of shame that I haven't used, but I still have one more Cosmic Brushes palette to use beyond this one. So I'm going to bring in Serenity by Cosmic Brushes and Unearthly's Dead of Night. And I think that they're going to be decently good matches. I think that they are similar to each other enough that I might have similar eye looks that come from using them. But this is Dead of Night by Unearthly, and this is Serenity by Cosmic Brushes. So I think that they will partner together really, really well. And I think that they're the perfect color stories for spring, let's just be honest. I was going to bring in Serenity and Cool Trolls, but I feel like Cool Trolls might be more something that I want to use with the Natasha Denona Golden or Natasha Denona I Need a Warm, because of the contrast of the two. So I think that that might be the next one that I bring in. I want to play that same like chaotic energy between the neutrals and the cool toned eyeshadows with two palettes that I have in my collection. I don't have the nude trolls palette, but I do have Natasha Denona I Need a Warm, and I have her golden. So I think one of those is going to partner with Cool Trolls next. So we'll do that next. But this time we're going to work through these two. I don't have very many palettes left in my drawer of shame. So when this series has to come to an end, because I no longer have palettes to review because I'm on a no-buy, I am getting the Bloom palette in my collection with points from Ulta. I am also getting the Pat McGrath Petalmorphosis palette that I purchased with a gift card that I got for Christmas and one that I got earlier this month. So I will have those two palettes coming in, but ultimately I think I have like 5 palettes left in my drawer of shame. So that's only a few months worth of palettes for review. So when we're done with palettes for review, what would you all like me to replace this with? Would you like it to be a tutorial? Would you like it to be something like I'm going through old palettes that I have in my collection and creating like 5 looks, 1 palette? What would you like me to do? On screen, I know that you guys see pictures, but would you like me to do something else. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions down in the comment section, so please let me know. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you and yours are well. I hope that you are all safe and healthy and getting along as best as you can. I hope that you are all loving each other, being kind humans, and living your best life. And until next time, bye friends.